This is the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. This is a situation that is a little unique. And it's unique in the fact that there was civil unrest in Peru over where an airport was going to be built as opposed to it not being built. A lot of times you see civil unrest when a country is moving forward a policy to do some large infrastructure project, and activists, in some cases rightfully so, believe that it is bad for the local people, it is bad for the environment, and bad overall. In some cases, it is not bad in totality, but requires some tweaking. But this is one of these situations where the protesters were demanding that the particular project be built, but in a different place. They want a project like this, but they don't want it where the government wants to build it. And because this was a such a violent protest, it raises a lot of concern on my part about getting involved in some infrastructure projects in Peru short term. The Francisco Carly Airport does not take international flights, but protesters want it to take international flights. The government, the Peruvian province of Jujuy, is a area where the government of Peru wants to put the international airport. And so, not to confuse you, the protesters want it in a different area in the province of Orkuntuna. The fact that these protests erupted over where the airport was supposed to go, and the fact there was a death, concerns me. This is not the way to conduct a protest. Protests should not result in a death. Protests should actually happen, I believe. I think they're a good thing because democracy is a good thing. But when you have it to the point where the police and protesters are engaged in hand-to-hand combat over a particular project, you have to look back at this entire episode after it's over and look at some of the details of the policy that created this incident. What is the real reason that the protesters don't want the airport in Jujuy and they want it in Orkuntuna? And for full disclosure, my Spanish is absolutely horrendous, and my pronunciation of these two provinces is probably totally incorrect, and I apologize. However, the point is, why is it a issue with these particular protesters, and why is there a element of labor unrest in this? These are the things that require a substantial amount of research on the part of the foreign direct investor. You can't just look at something and say, my goodness, there was a protest or some possible labor unrest, a strike has been called for a couple days. I can't get involved there. Don't make a snap decision. What you need to do is look at what was going on before the protests happened. Why is it that the Carle Airport has never been modernized, and would the modernization that the protesters want, would that cause more civil unrest? There needs to be some type of happy medium here with the protesters and the government, because this is not going to stop. This is going to keep going on and on and on. And once you start having civil unrest and there are people dying, you will always have this underlying current of fear running through foreign direct investors and businesses, and rightfully so. A death changes everything, and you don't want to have any of your money tied up in a project that is going to have a continuous stream of civil unrest, deaths, and destruction of property. Once again, I'm all for the protesters, and I'm all for them exercising their right to free speech. I'm also for the government trying to do something that, as far as improving the infrastructure of their air system, their air transport system. However, whatever triggered this, whatever caused this, cannot be found in news reports. It is something that goes much deeper and is going to require a substantial amount of research by the foreign direct investor. And I would urge the foreign direct investors, who listen to these podcasts to look into it a little bit further, specifically focus on legislative research and other issues that surround why the Carly Airport is favored by the activists and putting an airport in the province of Hua is not favored by the activists. There's a reason. This just didn't pop up. If the reason is completely illogical, then there's a good chance a protest will somehow be, a blip on a radar screen. They will fade away, or maybe there can be some kind of arrangement made. Maybe there can be two projects, which would be a great thing for Peru as far as jobs and investment opportunities. But if there cannot be, for some economic reason, and then the result of the protest is that nothing gets done, that is a bad situation that leads one to believe that the Peruvian government can't even control investments in infrastructure in their own country. I do believe that this is a short-term problem, but I do believe it has the potential to be a long-term problem unless the Peruvian government finds some way to modernize the Carly Airport and also do something with the original project they had planned for the Hua province. Whether or not they can do both, I don't know, but something needs to be done. And if it's only one project that currently could be done at the Carly Airport, then I think that may be the way to go. However, it's something that is going to play out on its own. But once again, the issue of the violent protest is what you have to look past and look at what caused that, and it's buried somewhere in your legislative research that you would do before you invest in a project as a foreign direct investor. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.